One comment that I always get on every single video I post is talk about physics more. People have been telling me that there isn't enough physics in my content, and I, as someone, I don't know if you know this, but as someone who studied physics at uni, albeit not very well, but I did do it. Anyway, I'm also now a science communicator, so honestly, like, just try and stop me from communicating science to you. So if there's one thing that physics has taught me, it is that I have no idea what is going on. And that's kind of fine, and it's fine because no one else has any idea what's going on either. Really, we're just living by a load of theories that get torn up and completely disproved at the drop of a hat, which is either very comforting or terrifying, depending on which way you think about it, or like a little mixture of both. And this is what forms the basis of this video. I've spent a lot of my life sort of priding myself on being sciencey and logical, and as what I thought was an extension of that, atheist. How on earth could anyone believe that there were divine beings up in the sky puppeting us? And I thought that for a very long time. And it's really weird looking back on it, especially since doing physics at uni, because now, to that I would say, how on earth can you believe pretty much any of my physics course that I did? It's all total chaos, and I don't mean like chaos theory, although obviously chaos theory exists, but it's fine. You know what I mean. And that's why I would now describe myself as agnostic, specifically, rather than atheist, because what I've come to realise is that I don't want to base my beliefs on faith, and although atheists would not like to believe this, but their beliefs, the sort of definite belief that like higher powers don't exist, is based on a degree of faith. Any definite answer is based on a probability. So I don't know, I just find it kind of ironic. I'm not trying to say anyone should believe a certain thing, but I guess, especially knowing what I was like when I was younger, I've now come to realise that to criticise someone for their beliefs and kind of look down on people who rely on faith is kind of rich. Like, considering that sort of any proof you think you have hinges on a patchwork of theories that are just waiting to be unravelled at any moment. And this extends to my view of death. So I used to believe that when you die, you're gone. Your body, you just kind of cease to exist, no more thoughts. Your body just decays into the pile of mush from whence it came. And if I'm being honest now, I think a part of me thought it made me seem kind of mature, you know, to be able to grapple with the idea of just not existing, accepting of the idea that the world around me would one day just stop. And that kind of made me such a free thinker and independent and cool. Like, I don't even know. I can't speak for younger Chloe. Anyway, the other day I was doing my morning browse of New Scientist magazine, because, I mean, did you even study science if you didn't have a subscription to New Scientist magazine? Embarrassing. Anyway, I was browsing when I came across this article, Why Almost Everyone Believes in an Afterlife, Even Atheists. The article discussed an experiment in which volunteers were told a fictitious story about a man who had just had an argument with his wife, and he was driving in his car and he ended up dying. Volunteers were told this story and then asked a series of questions about the man. The questions were things like, do you think he knows that he is dead? And do you think he wishes he had told his wife that he loved her before he died? This experiment, I think, was like in the early 2000s, so quite a while ago at this point. But what Jessie Baring, the psychologist behind it, found was that a lot of people, including people who had sort of overtly declared that they don't believe in an afterlife, answered yes to the questions. You know, questions that kind of imply that there was some kind of thought going on after death. And since then, that psychologist, Baring, and many others have sort of confirmed these results again and again and built on them. And they just keep finding that confronted with death, people, even if they kind of declare that they don't, will cling to this idea that at least some part of us survive. In another more recent experiment, building on that one, volunteers were asked if they agreed with the statement, "Conscious personality survives the death of the body, but I am completely unsure of what happens after that." And Bering found that 30% of people who had said that they don't believe in an afterlife still agreed with that statement. So still agreed with the statement that says conscious personality survives the death of a body. Like, yeah, it's 30% of them, it's not most of them, but if you're looking at a group of people who have specifically said they don't believe in it, it's kind of crazy. And, you know, other experiments often did come to that conclusion with this idea that the body did die. Like, people were ready to accept that, but the mind didn't. I think it would be interesting, like, you know, if you say you don't believe in an afterlife, like, is it because you don't believe in your body wandering around, or is it because you don't believe in anything beyond death, whether it be physical body or mind? Just like considering that separation is kind of interesting. So I think a big question that I thought is why? Why were people directly contradicting themselves in this case? And a lot of people believe it's to do with theory of mind. So humans are social creatures. We spend our lives connecting with other people and basically exercising empathy, sort of putting ourselves in their shoes, even in small ways every day, in order to bond with them. So really thinking about the thoughts and feelings of others. I mean, some people don't do that, I guess. But, you know, for the most part, that's who we are as creatures. And theory of mind kind of talks about that and how it affects our view of death. So although logically we can see a body die, because we can't conceive of our own thoughts stopping, we find it very difficult to think that other people's thoughts might stop when ours still sort of feel so real and are kind of alive and kicking. But believing something doesn't make it real. So the sort of big juicy question that, spoiler alert, I am not going to answer for you, is, does the afterlife exist? I'm just gonna throw at you some ideas that you may not have thought of before that are quite fun and combine physics and this thinking. Welcome to the next step in my lockdown 3 spiral. Does or could the afterlife exist? And the physics comes in the form of integrated information theory. Integrated information theory attempts to explain what consciousness is and why it might be associated with certain physical systems. So it suggests that consciousness emerges because of the way particular physical systems organize information. So that sounds like a mess. I'm going to try to further explain for you. And to be fair, the theory is very controversial, but it's also well developed and like a lot of people really do back it. Some researchers believe that life itself, like consciousness, is an emergent property, and it's kind of encapsulated by the equation life equals matter plus information. So hold on to that, and then consider that one of the most, I mean, I've just been saying how nothing is real, but one of the most well-founded theories in the sort of bedrock of physics is that information cannot be destroyed. So looking at the life equals matter plus information equation and considering the fact that information cannot be destroyed, we're then led to the question, where does the information associated with you, associated with your life, where does that information go when you die? A chemist called, I'm gonna have to read it, I'm sorry if I pronounced this wrong, Michel Frankel-Donnet believes that quantum physics might hold the answer. So a big part of quantum physics is this idea that particles are actually waveforms, and if, say, you sort of see an electron, or you detect an electron, what you're seeing is actually just an excitation, and these waveforms don't have a well-defined boundary in space or time, so they're kind of infinite. Frankel-Donnet talks about how very far away from that excitation it is possible that this sort of electron in hand exists. This possibility, this chance of finding an electron there is immeasurable, it's immeasurably small, but that's not to say that it doesn't matter. And that's kind of the crux of what Frankel-Donnet is getting at. It suggests that a part of what might make us alive, i.e. information, could survive death. And although this is just a suggestion and it's not well developed, I just think it's very interesting because it does point to an afterlife of some kind, and especially in this world where people think that sciences like physics exist at completely different ends of the spectrum, in a different world to philosophy and things like that. And I just really enjoy articles like this and ideas like this because it shows how truly reconcilable these things are. And not even reconcilable, it kind of reveals how in their essence they feed one another. Personally, I believe in an afterlife, not in the way that I think younger Chloe would classically think of an afterlife if asked if I believed in one, but I believe in an afterlife because people are so much more than the bodies that they inhabit. And it doesn't mean that you have any less right to be upset when somebody dies, but I also think that people do continue to exist, you know, in the minds of the people that knew them, and also in the sort of things they left behind, physical or not. A friend does not cease to exist just because you aren't interacting with them at that point in time. And in the same vein, if someone dies, you're not interacting with them at that point in time. And the difference between those two scenarios is just that you kind of know you never will, so there's that knowledge. It's very loosely like a sort of Schrodinger's cat kind of scenario. If you do not yet know if someone is dead, are they really dead? I just believe that a huge amount of emphasis is placed on physical existence. Not that it's not incredibly important, but it's just, it can be quite good to appreciate the lasting effect someone might have on you and that sense of presence that you get when you reflect on someone who has died. We experience the world through our own thoughts and feelings, and those thoughts and feelings about a person don't die when they do, you know, that information isn't just extracted from you as though they never existed. So anyway, that's about all I have to say on the matter. I mean, it's not, there's probably more, but all I have to say within the scope of this video. I hope the physics community on YouTube doesn't come after me. I'm actually quite afraid of that. So if you enjoyed this video, please comment and like and subscribe and help propel me to the fame and fortune that I so deserve. Thank you for watching.